Do you want to know a Google Classroom secret? Rubrics are so easy to use, and they are like the best thing ever when it comes to grading assignments on Google Classroom. Oh, and did I mention that you're going to want to stick around until the very end of this video, because I've got a great free offer for you, something that you can definitely use in your own Google Classroom. Hello there everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you are brand new here, hi, I am so glad to see you. My name is Danielle Rochford, and I am a grade 7 and 8 online teacher. I'm also a Google certified trainer, and today I am going to be taking you through how to use rubrics in Google Classroom. Now, over the past number of weeks here, I've been posting videos on different aspects of Google Classroom. So if you're just jumping in right now, I do have a whole video playlist of videos that we've done that explain everything that you need to know about Google Classroom. So if you're not quite caught up on the series, I am going to link in the cards the link to the playlist that you'll need so you can get all caught up and learn everything that you ever wanted to know about Google Classroom. Well, today we are going to be focusing on rubrics. Now, like I mentioned at the front end of this video, rubrics are absolutely awesome, especially when it comes to grading tasks on Google Classroom. Not only does it help with the teacher workflow and helping to make that go much more smoothly, but it helps students to be able to understand what it is exactly that you are looking for from them in their assignments and what it is that they need to be doing. So what I want to do is I want to dive into the computer here, where we're going to start off with the teacher view. So we have a number of assignments here on the screen, and we're just going to open one of them here, and we're going to go ahead and edit. We have the bare bones of an assignment here, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this rubric portion here. For this assignment, we are going to add a rubric, and in order to do that, we just click on this plus rubric button, and it gives us a few options. So there are a number of different ways that we can use a rubric or attach a rubric in Google Classroom. We can create one on the spot. We can reuse one that has already been used in another assignment that we have access to, or we can import from sheets. So we're going to look at all three of these methods. The first one, though, is we're going to take a look at how we go about just creating one directly from Google Classroom. So if you click on Create Rubric, we have our window here that allows us to be able to create the rubric that we need. So we're going to be adding different criteria and different descriptions of what that criteria might look like. Okay, and we can choose also whether or not we're going to use scoring. Okay, and so what this does is on the actual assignment, say for example, you wanted it out of 100 points. As you go through and grade with the rubric that you have provided, even if the rubric isn't out of 100 points, Google Classroom will automatically score it out of 100 for the final score. Okay, so you can choose to use that or not. Okay, I personally leave this on. And you can also choose the order that the points are added as. So you can do either descending or ascending. All right, so let's pretend that for this particular assignment, it's going to be an oral presentation that the students are going to give. Okay, and so we want our rubric to reflect those different things that we are looking for in an oral presentation. So for our very first one, let's say we're looking for eye contact. Okay, so that would be our first criterion there. We could provide a more detailed description of that if we choose, but it's not required. Okay, so you don't have to provide that description, but you can if you would like to. Then we're going to take a look at, how many points is this going to be out of? So let's say we'll have it at a 4. We'll also have 3, 2, 1. And I do also like to provide a 0 there for as I'm going, say for example, a student just hasn't done it at all, I do have the option of awarding no points. So I do include a 0 in there to indicate that the criterion just was not present, okay? And so once we have how many points it is out of, we can provide, for example, what the title of that level would be. So we could put here, not evident. This could be, let's say, approaching expectations. This is developing. We have meeting expectations, and then our last one would be exceeding expectations. And of course, these titles could be anything that you choose for them to be. These are just some examples for right now. In addition to that, we can add some descriptions of what that would look like. So for example, eye contact for 4 points. What does that look like? 3 points. What does that look like? And so we can go ahead and place in descriptions of what each of those point values looks like. And I'm not going to have you here watch me type it out. I'm going to do a fast forward here as we get all these descriptions in. All right, so now that we have those in place, here we have our 4 points, looking at eye contact, how we might rate that. We could leave it as is, or we could add more criterion, okay? So we can add and just start from scratch with that new one, or we can actually duplicate this first one. So for example, say we wanted to keep the 4-point format, that it's still exceeding, meeting expectations, developing, and whatnot. A lot of those portions are still in place. We could duplicate the criterion. And so let's do that here. Okay, so we have another eye contact one here, but we can go through and change this. All right, so let's say that our next criterion is going to be enthusiasm. Okay, and so we can provide a further description if we would like to. And then we take a look at the different points. We would probably need to change up our descriptions here, okay? And so we can change that up to reflect what it is that we're looking for when it comes to enthusiasm. Once again, I'll fast forward through this part so you don't have to watch me type away. All right, so there we have our second criterion, as well as all the different levels that we are looking for that are possible for a student during this presentation. All right, let's take a look at if we were to press this button here to add a criterion. So what that does is it provides us another option that is empty so that we can just start from scratch with this one. Okay, so if we wanted to do an additional one, we could do that. Okay. Or if we did not want to, we could actually delete the criterion as well. Once we have all of the items in place that we want, we go ahead and we save. And now the rubric is attached to the assignment. And then we can save the assignment so that the students now have access to the rubric. Okay, so now the question is, so what exactly does this look like from the student end? So let's take a look at a student account and see what that might look like from their end. So here we have a student account, and we're going to take a look at that very same assignment. You'll notice that one of the attachments here for them is the rubric. And so if they click on it, they can see what the rubric looks like and exactly what it is that you are expecting from them when it comes to this assignment. All right, so now that we've taken a look at that, let's take a look at some of the other ways that we can go about adding rubrics to an assignment. I'm going to open up another assignment here that we do not have a rubric attached to yet. I'm going to press on the rubric button, and this time we're going to reuse a rubric. So say, for example, I had constructed a rubric on another assignment and I wanted to reuse it for another task. If you click on Reuse Rubric, it will show you the different rubrics that are available from the various assignments that you have, okay? And up here you can actually choose from different classes that you are a teacher in. So it doesn't even have to be that exact same classroom. It can be from a different class that you choose from. As long as you are a teacher or a co-teacher, you can pull from that, okay? So let's say we're going to pull the rubric from the assignment that we just made. We want to reuse it again. We click on that one and then select. And that will think and pull it up, and you will notice here that we now have the exact same rubric assigned to a different assignment. A question that I have gotten a number of different times is, I have another teacher at my school that would like to use the same rubric that I'm using. How can I share it with them? Well, there's actually a couple of different ways that you can do that. Okay, so for example, I mentioned before, if you were a teacher or a co-teacher on a class, then you had the ability to reuse. Okay, so if you have a co-worker, another teacher, and you add them to your Google Classroom as a co-teacher, they have access to be able to reuse any rubrics that you have created on assignments in that class that you've added them to, okay? Now, say for example, you don't have the ability to add another teacher as a co-teacher, or you're just uncomfortable adding them as a co-teacher and giving them those permissions, because I know that some people are. There is another way that you can do it, okay? If you have your rubric open, okay, and so you can do that just by navigating to the assignment that the rubric is attached to, and by clicking on that rubric there. Okay, so it brings it up for you. If you go to those three little dots, you have a couple of choices. You can edit the rubric, okay? You can delete it, which we probably don't want to do, but you can also export it to Sheets, okay? So I'm going to click on Export to Sheets. And what that's going to do is it's going to take that information on your rubric, and it is going to create a Google Sheet file that can then be imported to Google Classroom as a rubric by your coworker. So the Google Sheet file that is created is saved to your Google Drive, and you can actually access it directly from your Google Drive, okay? So you will notice here that here is our Google Sheet. Okay, and so if you're sharing it with a coworker, you can go to the share button. Okay, and what you can do is you can add a person to share it with. Okay, and so you can share it with your coworker, whoever might want to reuse that rubric, okay? And when you share it with them, they will then have access to import it into their own Google Classroom, which that's what we're going to take a look at now. So how can we take this Google Sheets file, and how can we then end up having it in the form of a rubric on Google Classroom, okay? So if we go back to Google Classroom here, we're going to pull up an assignment here. Go to our Edit button, and once again we are going to click on the plus rubric button. And this time what we're going to do is we are going to click on Import from Sheets. So if we have a Google Sheets file that is in the proper format for importing as a rubric, then we can simply hit this Import from Sheets option. And you will be provided with the different Google Sheets, or actually it'll be spreadsheets from your Google Drive that you'll have access to, okay? I'm going to choose our example rubric here, and this is what we're going to import. And so I'm going to click on it and then add. And now you'll see that it brings in all of the sample information that was provided on the Google Sheets. Okay, so this one was not highly descriptive or anything like that in nature. So if we take a look at the actual Google Sheet file, here we go, you'll notice that all the information that we have right here was imported directly as the rubric for this assignment. And so that is how we import from Google Sheets. Now it can't just be any random way of setting things up. Google Classroom, in order for the import to work, the Google Sheet does need to be set up in a very specific way. And so that does need to be done in order to be able to import. So that's why if you have a co-teacher or a co-worker that has exported their rubric and shared that file with you, you will be able to use that file because it's been exported directly from Google Classroom. It is in the proper format to be able to added to an assignment on your Google Classroom. All right, so now the question might be, how is it that we can grade with a rubric? So if we take a look here, we can view our assignment. We see we have a couple of them handed in. We're going to take a look at this one that has not been graded yet, okay? What we can do is we take a look and say, okay, these are our different criterion. These are the different point values. Can evaluate the work and say, well, there's a 3 for this. Oh, they did pretty well here. And there we go. All right, and so you'll notice that as we click the boxes, it adds how many out of 5, how many points out of 5, okay? If we need further descriptions, you click that arrow down, we can see exactly what the detailed descriptions are of each level, okay? And then as we go through and do that, we have 4 or 5, 5 out of 5, 3 out of 5, it adds it up for us, total of 12 out of 15. And because I did have that setting clicked on for being able to transition that score, we'll notice that even though I have it out of 100 points, it's taken that 12 out of 15 and it has told me how many out of 100 points it is worth. So we have 80 out of 100 for the final score, okay? And so once we've done that, we can then return, make sure that the check mark is beside the students that we want to return a grade to, and we can return it. We can give a comment if we would like to. Great job. And then return the work. And what this does is this returns the work to the student. They get ownership of any documents that maybe they added to that. They get that ownership back. And then they get a notification of what their final score is. And then what they're able to do is they're actually able to go ahead and take a look at the rubric and see how exactly it was that you graded them. All right, so let's take a look at what that looks like from the student end. Okay, so if we go back to the student account, we take a look at that particular assignment, we see that it has been graded. Okay, we can view the assignment. All right, and the student is able to see the comment that we made. There's the great job. They get their final score up here in the upper left-hand corner, and then they can take a look at exactly where they got the points from based on the rubric. Okay, and so they can see exactly how you scored it. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video here, this is a little bit of a gem when it comes to Google Classroom. It really helps to be able to clarify for the students exactly what it is that you're looking for, and it helps to minimize the amount of time that you as a teacher spend in grading. Now I do have a wonderful bonus for all of you guys that have stuck around to the end of the video. I actually have a free offer for you guys. I have taken many of the different rubrics that I use in Google Classroom, and I have placed them into Google Sheets for you so that if you would like to use them, you can import them into your own Google Classroom. So if you're interested in my free offer of these different rubrics for you to use, then check out the description box below this video for the information on where you need to go in order to claim those free rubrics for you to use in your Google Classroom. Happy grading, everyone!